We get one this way. Nice, beautiful. There we go. Nice. He stayed. We're gonna do. We just get one. Quick gloves to me.
My character's name is Ciela, and she's a Salvadorian girl that crosses the border to move in with her sister in Los Angeles, and it's a story of her claiming her voice and basically being challenged in multiple ways and overcoming those challenges. I never saw anyone like me growing up on screen, so to be one of the first ever limb different like people in a major network TV show, let alone in the starring role, is like really magical and amazing. I just, yeah, it's a surprise to me.
My episode is about a woman who was born in Belize, and she moved to New York and started as a nanny with a Hasidic Jewish family. They taught her their trade, and she eventually moved on and built an empire for herself. I moved here from Jamaica when I was about 15 years old. So, I understood the struggle of leaving people that you love behind, leaving your home in search of a better life, in search of a future for yourself.
We have a journalist team with Epic Magazine, so they're out looking for stories. Sometimes we have a specific idea of like, oh, we really want to tell a story about Cuba, so they'll go out and look for that. A lot of times it's like a friend of a friend, or your Uber driver that told you a story on your way to somewhere, and so I think once we're making the show, after the first season, I think our feelers are always out, and we're kind of talking to people, and really a lot of our stories come through personal connections. Season 2, I think we're having a slightly more complicated view of America and what the American dream is, and it's not always pure optimism. I think there's times people come here with a dream and it doesn't work out, and then what? So there were a lot of things I think we were interested in exploring in Season 2 that feel really nuanced and complicated.
My name is Milad Yusufi. I am in the Paper Piano episode. And as an immigrant and refugee from Afghanistan to Hollywood. My episode it talks about my life as a survivor. It talks about my life as a refugee, how did I make it to United States, and as a performer and artist, how I was being recognized in the musical world, and how did I learn music. Music was banned in Afghanistan when I started music, and I taught myself piano by drawing piano on a piece of paper and pretend to play. So that's why the episode's name is Paper Pianos.
Season 1, it was a lot about what America can bring to these people who are in the stories. And Season 2, I really think about what these people offer America.
This season we tried to highlight more about communities as well. So there are individuals, there's always an individual we focus on, but a lot of times they're joining a community of people who are also from their part of the world. When you think of immigrant, everyone in America kind of gets a very similar image. So we wanted to show every immigrant to America has a different story. The podcast is absolutely completely documentary. There is no dramatization in that. So it's very different in that those stories are fascinating. But those are all completely, we didn't change any names for the show. We changed the names, we changed the timelines.
And that the podcast is audio. That's the other difference.
There's no video in it, so that's a big difference.
I guess the difference between season 2 and season 1 is we want to challenge ourselves a little bit more, and we found the stories were a little bit more complicated, a little bit more textured, and we kept returning back to the theme of what now. And so someone comes to the United States and you think, oh, well, that's the land of opportunity, everything is going to be great, and it's not the way that they imagined. They flame out, the pressures of their parents are too much, they want to get home. And so we found that kind of the stories, without us intentionally doing it, kind of had a unifying theme around that. The stories that we choose, we look at it as almost like a mosaic. And so you don't want to have two stories that have similar themes or from, similar parts of the US or similar parts of the world. And so you really start kind of, picking and looking and trying to figure out like, okay, well, we're doing one from here, so let's try to find one from here. And it's just having so much diversity in both the world, in the United States, and also in the types of stories that we're telling. That's our goal.
It's a unique show in that it aims to highlight stories that aren't normally highlighted in the mainstream media. So there's definitely a time and a place for that.
I'm Jamal Hashi, the originator of the camel on a stick.
Yep.
And Hanad is portraying me, and I'm really excited to be out here with him today. Hanad did an exceptional job. I'm just hearing it through the producers and all my friends and everyone that has worked with him talked a great deal about him.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Everyone is talking great deal about him, so I'm really looking forward to it. Absolutely.
For this guy to have such a unique, very relatable story, and then a guy like me to be able to portray it, bro, like
and bring it to life.
Yeah, bring it to life. Thank you for that. It doesn't do anything but inspire a lot of guys who are from the same ethnicity, same culture as us. So.
Or other immigrant groups as well.
Other immigrant too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
The first season was a little bit more about people coming to America, right, and their journey here. And then season 2 has wound up being a little bit more about like, okay, I'm here, and now what? Some of the original subjects, when they see themselves and see that story represented, and it's very moving.
In the first season, we tried to be a little bit more optimistic in a time when I think the nation needed some optimism, and now we're doing our best to tell a complicated story where there's redemption everywhere. Every single day we're hearing stories at my company, and we're just like, oh, that's Little America Season 3, oh, that's Little America Season 4. We're really trying to, collect as many great stories as we can.
Little America is an anthology series of stories based on real-life stories of immigrants who came to this country. And they're funny, they're sad, they're heartbreaking, they're joyful. It's all of that mashed into one. So all of the stories that make our country a wonderful place. Something that was really important to us, especially this season, was to make sure that not all of the stories were exactly the same tone. We didn't want all of them to be traumatic or sad or, stories of hardship. Although those stories are really, really meaningful and they need to be told, we wanted to show the entire broad range and the spectrum of immigrant stories. So, yeah, some of those are funny. Like, my parents are immigrants, and they're some of the funniest people in the world.
It's a story about a Japanese immigrant who has a dream of playing women's baseball.
I'm just so happy to see the representation of women in baseball, as well as the Japanese women to be the center of the character.